are here. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to today's stream here at the NECC Games. My name is Orbital. I'm joined here with Mick, and we will be starting off the show for the Hearthstone week number 1 of their league here. We have a lot of great teams coming out here, and I'm excited. There are going to be 3 series today, best of 5s. Mick, how you feeling about these?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm really excited to see, some collegiate Hearthstone come out. I know the scene's pretty hard to sit there and find scenes here and there, but once you get the chance to sit there and finally find some competitive card games, it's so nice to see and it's so refreshing.
Yeah, and we have some fantastic lineups. So to start things out here, we will be seeing Naycrusade and FluffyBoy. Naycrusade coming in from Pittsburg State University, and FluffyBoy coming in from Kings. So to round out our first best of 5, those will be taken on. Then after that, at 7 p.m. EST, we'll have Bog Nasty from Bay State taking on Killer JV from North Alabama. Finally, at 9 p.m. EST, it's a battle of the inter-squad members. UC Santa Cruz members King Milo and Paper Ninja will be facing off to round out our evening. I mean, taking a look at some of their decks, it looks like everyone's going for obviously that high tier setup. I mean, Mick, is there any matchup you are definitely looking forward to?
I'm looking mostly forward to just long-term and tempo-based matchups. We have so many aggressive decks going forward today that I've seen that, it always relies on that quick mulligan up front and, getting the right cards in hand. And personally, it's always make or break from the start. I always love seeing, like things like Highlanders, things like tempo, things that just rely on a later game so we can see a big board feel and a very kind of fun 2 turns here and there rather than just a really quick going game overall.
Yeah, you want a little bit more time. Let's get some analytical work going, right? We want to be able to analyze how these guys are going to be playing it. Now, once again, to give you an idea of how this tournament will be ran, or not tournament, the league will be ran. Each match is a best of 5 with each player bringing 4 decks to the table. Away teams are home teams and away teams. Each player will be labeled 1, and they will take turns banning out 1 deck, and then they will have a decision to pick from the other remaining 3. Both players will not know which deck has been picked until I believe they go against each other, and you must win with 3 separate decks if you want to be crowned the winner of the best of 5. A lot of information, of course. Very sorry about that, but we'll enjoy our time here, of course. So, taking a look though, we did get some information. So there have been some very interesting decks, at least all pretty much top shelf decks coming out. Were there any that caught your eye between these two, between FluffyBoy and Naycrusade, that you kind of want to pick apart for the time being?
Well, personally, I would have to say with one of these guys, I'm seeing, what was it? It would be Ramp Paladin for the most part, like one of those kind of incantations that's out right now. With the new set that just came out, the mini set, races at the Dark Moon Fair, we got all kinds of like small little cards, which at first didn't seem all that much impactful for the meta. But at this point, we now see everything kind of translating. At that before this, in the Dark Moon Fair, we only had maybe 2 meta decks. It was Combo Rogue and it was Evolve Shaman as well. And the meta was just very bland and didn't have enough to bring to the table. But just having like a $15 pack right there, which sits there and gives you so many new cards, which are super impactful, especially halfway through the season, it opens up a whole new meta and it makes it a lot more interesting. So, seeing Pure Paladin not exactly be King of the Reigns anymore, and, Rogue getting kind of nerfed here and there to sit there and be more of a its traditional style of how it should be, things along the lines of that, and it's just really
Yeah.
nice to see those.
Yeah, variation is always nice, and it brings out, you're not having that, that straight up mirror matchup. I think that's what we got in the Hearthstone 2020 championships. Actually, that was a while ago, I believe, but there was actually a couple Demon Hunter mirror matches and all that fun stuff. You've seen those all day long, and it's fun to an extent, but sometimes you do want that variation. You want to see that craziness, that cheese work its way in there. So I do believe we will be getting into game for our first game of this best of 5, and I am excited to see what they bring to the table. So some thoughts going in. I believe both players have already decided to ban out a few. Looking at it, I believe Naycrusade had his Paladin deck actually banned out of the 4. We'll kind of go over what decks they do have. But so that was a Paladin deck, and then FluffyBoy has his own Warlock deck that was banned away. So both players deciding, hey, we might not want to mess with with either of these semi-healers versus dots and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Which, it's kind of disappointing that they're the ones, the Paladin got banned over there on one of the sides, because that is actually the Rent Paladin that I was mentioning. One player that we do see from these deck lists, that one player is running the Rent Paladin Incantation, and then one is running the Pure Paladin Incantation. And a Pure Paladin has been around for so many seasons. It's just, it almost feels like the same as that cards. There hasn't been too much kind of innovations in it. While, these two players, they have done justice to the deck, creating their own little twist to it nonetheless. Overall, providing a new kind of feel for it. I feel like no matter what today, we're going to see some things we're not exactly used to, which from our part as an audience and as casters is always a little exciting.
Yeah, but we are getting into that first round, swapping out some cards if they wish. But I do believe it will be the Whirl Kick combo Rogue from Naycrusade to kick things off versus the Hunter deck from FluffyBoy. So walk me through this this Hunter deck as it's always one to have a little bit of fun with all the secret combos that can kind of come out with it.
Yeah, with the Hunter deck, it also comes down to that very upfront kind of mulligan thing. That's Hunter as a whole. You want to sit there for these early turns with having so many cheap cards and having so many one-time things. You want to pull those right off the bat. And as we see, FluffyBoy pulling the Mystery Winter, that's a huge one drop, which sits there and allows you, even if you don't get a 2-drop, one of the maybe 13 out of 30 decks, or 13 out of 30 cards in your deck somehow, then you still have an option. You're allowed to sit there and open up the field and decide on what can most help you in your situation, rather than deciding, from just a blind draw in your deck.
Blind drawn, just a little bit of a taste. As already we got some thinking going on. He's having a little bit of fun. Maybe. Or he's already sitting mulling over that possible mulligan. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see that just yet. Of course, I always feel it's, the first round, you have to set your own kind of tempo and precedent for what's to come, right? And mulliganing right off the start, putting yourself in a 0-1 position, I think would just feel terrible.
Yeah. And, we do see with Rogue does have a lot more minions based on their whole kind of build, which in the early game, as long as you get those right builds, he sat there and pulled the Feral Cat turn 1. That has an extra stat to it in order to keep all the survivability on board, allowing these trades into the things like the Phase Stalker and, the Mystery Winter and all kinds of things like that. Issue is, once you get into those trading situations, this is what Hunter wants you to do. Hunter wants you to attack his minions with things like, pack tactics, which say if he attacks his 2/3 by some chance, there's a chance that there being 3/1/1 snakes, or a 3/3 copy of that exact same minion. This is what Hunter thrives off of. So this is a situation where Nay's going to have to figure out how exactly to react to this, because it's always a super tough matchup. Speaking of snake trap right there, man thinks he's going to get rid of one thing, but he has 3 more things to get rid of, and a both options. This man said, I'm going to give you the best of both worlds. They're going to flood the board off one card right there.
I feel that's so rude. Literally, turn 4, you're just like, nah, we'll mess with you a little bit. I'm sure FluffyBoy is excited about that. Naycrusade gonna have to tread a little bit more carefully. Of course, the secret board is off right now and already sitting here. I believe he's sitting on a few nice combos, possibly coming out here shortly. I am seeing a lot of 1s and 0s, so low cost, able to start comboing, maybe give himself a health advantage if he wishes.
Which, unfortunately, as we see, Nate hasn't been running running a copy of Phantom Blades in this kind of deck. And, if you're sitting there thinking about how all these players play and, the kind of cards are going to be run, you need to look for those certain counter cards in your deck. As small as the chance of drawing them may be, you want to sit there, especially with, all these kind of new things with Foxy Fraud and Swindle. Those things increase your odds. If you have a Phantom Blades or something along the lines, you don't need to worry about those 1/1s at that point. There's so many it opens up your world of possibilities. But unfortunately for Nay, he isn't running something like that, so he's got to find a way to trade for every single one of these cards individually.
I feel that's definitely going to be a problem as he's starting to flood a little bit, but nice little explosive trap secret might be in the works if they wish to pop it up. But again, 5 stacking a little bit. Happy to have a little bit more defensive board set up for whatever the heck this hunter is ready to output.
And I think, at this point, Nay's doing as much as he can. With Hunter, you've just traded a lot of resources, and I don't think he's going to go face in this kind of situation because he wants, just in case it is an explosive trap, that's the only AoE Hunter has in terms of his secret builds. So he wants to make sure to get those trades out and just choke the Hunter to where he's only having to use his hero power, and Rogue can utilize those combos to sit there and get some more face damage in the later stages.
Later stages are the hope here. A couple quick tags from the snake, biting at the heels of the rogue, and maybe a little return venom to spark a little bit more action. As a last round, a nice little summon of a 3/3, couple Walpers deciding they wanted to visit the field. And you can tell Naycrusade a little bit worried about those 2 secrets. Last time it flooded the board, this time might be the next couple copies. A huge thing of this game, you gotta love it, is the like you said, the tracking of the cards. What does your opponent still have? And there it is. Second pack tactics deciding it is up and available. That feels bad.
Yeah, it does. But, he made the right choice with it. The only thing he really could do there was go for a minion. So with that, you want to make sure, because if you attack face, World Kick Master is a huge part in this deck, and he doesn't want to risk getting rid of that. He knows Explosive Trap has just enough damage to sit there and clear it off the board, making his deck almost feel useless to some extent. But speaking of useless, Edwin Van Cleef is not that. He got a really good pop off with that, getting a solid 8/8 on the board, allowing for a lot of trades going forward. Only issue is he has to look out for a freezing trap now if Hunter decides to play that at some point.
Yeah, that's a possibility coming out here. A nice little draw on the Dwarven Sharpshooter. Not sure if he wants to. You can see him dancing all over his cards right now. 6 mana to work with, and a slightly full board here. I do like the sitting of that secret, though. That attack coming out of a rogue, if you do, you lose about half your board, I think, from that explosive trap. So I want to see if he's going to attempt that. Looks like just dropping a little bit of damage, try and clear that hero off as quickly as possible.
Yeah, he's trying to clear out the most valuable targets right now. He did a great job. He's surprisingly only getting Edwin down to, just clearing him out overall. Because, he's kind of worried that he's only going to be training the minions, which is exactly what he's doing right now. He's going to get a lot of value out of Edwin, but if you, by any chance, had an explosive trap, he could have just left it at 1 or 2 health, per se, and only trade a smaller minion while reserving the rest of that for face. So, when you're in a situation where you don't have many cards in your hand, you can kind of start to tend to panic a little bit and not exactly have the most reasonable thinking in terms of how to allocate the damage. But overall, he's doing the best he can with the resources he had, with Hunter now drying out himself.
And it feels so bad after you wipe about 5 to watch 4 come right back on the board. 5 to none, and you're just like, man, I did all that work. I wanted to help so much. And playing a cheap 1/2 with no secrets in its hand, given a random one at that. So definitely feels like a half stall here coming out right now.
Yeah. Fluffy's just trying to sit there and will fluff his hand a little bit right now. He's running out of resources so quickly, and Voracious Reader is the only real card draw that this deck has. It doesn't have too many other kind of resources to it for drawing. You have those beasts. You do have the Phase Stalker, which pulls, spells from your deck. But besides that, you don't have too many resources to sit there and draw and get more resources for yourself. That's why Voracious is such a crucial card in this kind of build if you don't get the right build right off the bat.
And oof, dropping down to 1. A nice little freezing. I think it's just not going to be enough as in comes the onslaught of just damage coming through right now. A couple minions tagging back and forth, and immediately health is evened up. Hunter versus Assassin. Game number 1 already coming down to what looks to be the wire.
Yeah, you know, Fluffy's in a really bad situation here. The only thing he could have hoped for there was maybe a taunt to buy a little bit of time. The next go around, it's just at this point, he really doesn't have anything left. That's his second copy of Voracious Reader, and that's all of his card draw basically at this point. And he has to get something like, if he had a King Crush or something along the lines of that, that could close this game out. But sadly, he's running more of a resource-bound deck rather than more of a upfront aggressive OTK-based kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel the worst part about this too, when you're this deep into the game, you're hoping to already be spamming a lot of those secrets, right? That's the whole point of this deck. And right now, no mana, sitting on 3/3 cost, which is just pain. And yeah, that's going to free up Naycrusade. I think that's possible lethal. Yep, that's going to be it right there. Game 1 going the way of Naycrusade. I want to just say, like, felt clean, you know, very nice stalling of the resources and ensuring that he was able to win. Looks a little bit rough with the 11 health there, but still very well done.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Hunter, you know, personally from a standpoint of playing for so many years, you know, I'm kind of thankful Hunter ran out of resources, because it's always that just player intuition of, please let this Hunter not have everything to completely counteract what they have going on. But, you know, we're not in those shoes right now. But overall, Hunter just, this deck performing really well on ladder, because, you know, you have so many kind of different variations of decks. You know, you have a lot more aggressive decks, and not that much resource generation, unless you go up something against like a priest, or, you know, say some kind of like a warrior, just in some extent, something that can stall out time. But, you know, when you have that world kick in there and that big aspect to that deck, then it just adds a whole different kind of gameplay to draw things out. As we saw, that there was a couple of those cards that were generated by the World Kick Master, allowing the road to survive a little longer and sit there and give him a little bit more board flooding.
Yeah, now on to game number 2. We are taking a look here, and it looks like the unbans are coming through, as that is going to be the Druid coming out for Naycrusade versus the Paladin from FluffyBoy. So that all-important Paladin that I think was banned away. No, actually, that was not banned last time.
Paladin. This would be the pure Paladin that is on the play right now, and it's also Guardian Animal Druid that's in play right now. So, you know, you do have Rant Paladin, which is a lot of more kind of Murloc-based cards with a little bit of, you know, pure Paladin aspect towards the end on the higher ends of mana. But pure Paladin is more focused and focal on the fact that you have, you know, a little bit of minions, maybe no more than 2 or 3 minions on board at a time, and you're constantly looking for some kind of hand buff or some kind of minion buff to sit there and make sure, especially with the Libram system going in now, that you have a constant kind of way to keep these minions buffed when they're on board.
Must move quickly.
Yeah, and as we get that board fill, like you said, just a couple every so often to ensure that there's something there. I want to get your thoughts here as everyone's kind of stepping up, right? Naycrusade and FluffyBoy, these two decks, is there one that you feel overpowers the other in a drastic aspect, or are they both kind of evenly matched?
I feel like almost the Druid has a little bit better in terms of matchups right now, because Druid has so much kind of, you know, Druid feels like such a solid class in terms of value, in terms of resources, everything it has to offer. And it's a little more mid-rangey, so he doesn't have to worry, you know, as we see Paladins taking more of a token stance right now with utilizing its Brazen Zealot. But that was very reliant on the fact that he got that out of the first day of school. If he didn't get that, it would be a very kind of situation where he'd have like maybe like just 5 damage on board if he's lucky, 5 or 6 at this point. But he's thankfully able to ramp off of that Zealot and make sure that he has something is to put some pressure on the board and put Druid in a position where he has to be thinking about putting something on the board rather than being able to wait it out and maybe ramp his mana from spells, as we saw earlier with the Wild Growth.
Yeah, but you know what feels terrible? Naycrusade sitting on a 10-8-9. He is waiting and biding his time. Looks like he's going to be able to pop at least one. Yeah, there he goes. He's trying his best to be able to just bust his way through and at least put something on the board. It's taken so much pain, so one more turn would have done it. And there you go. Finally dropping some of those. Nice little cleave through. Drops 3 of the 6 and immediately recovers. So very nice taunt with a 4-4. Time to start playing back, man. The Crusade might be coming now.
Yeah. And, you know, that's exactly what he's have to consider now, because with this Guardian Animal Druid, you have so many, well, you have a lot of big beasts in here. And he could have actually had a couple strongmen in hand, possibly, because that's a very common card in this kind of deck list, where you can sit there and throw 2 extra 6/6s on board with taunt, and they cost you nothing at all. So, you know, Fluffy getting very lucky here and kind of cut a little bit of slack in terms of what he's up against, because, well, not in terms of that draw, because that Enchanted Relic, that's going to that's an issue. He's got to think about that, because anytime he wants to now cast a spell, he has to clear that out before he considers it. Otherwise, it's going to go into the Fury stack.
So a little bit of respite taken. A little bit of a wait, but gonna start clearing out that board of the Paladin again. FluffyBoy hasn't been touched. Last time he had a little bit of issue with the rush, but has the health advantage and already calling the well played. Just a little bit of fun at the nice moves, a nice recovery once again. 23-9 is the health count. So Naycrusade definitely understanding he is walking on eggshells right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Druid as well. You know, if he sits there and puts himself in a good position, he can sit there and hero power all day and technically have unlimited health to him. Meanwhile, Paladin is purely reliant on some of his cards to give him the resources to heal himself or to enchant one of his minions to heal him. So, you know, that's where Druid could, you know, you may get that strong burst up front, but he can mitigate that damage over the long course of the game.
Mitigate as best he can. Fluffy deciding best course of action is tag him a little bit, keep that health slightly low. A trade on the minions. Trading a few back and forth. Nice draw on the Anubis off defender. And now a full 10, deciding that it's time to throw it down. And the corruption might have just started.
All right. Yeah, that was a very, very solid turn for Naycrusade right there. Survival of the fittest, once you get that down, as long as you don't have your opponent choked out where they spend all their mana putting that down, you know, it puts him in a really good position, because now he already has a minion on board. He still has a cleave there in case Paladin decides to flood the board somehow. And now he also has the Anubis defender to sit there and also kind of stack over and make sure it doesn't get targeted unless it's by a spell.
Well played.
You know, he did get the trade on the Educated Relic, making sure if he did have a target to get rid of the cleave, then he wouldn't have a way to sit there and get that card back in his deck. But overall, it still puts Fluffy in a really bad situation here, because he could be looking at, over the next 2 turns, most likely dying.
Looks like I'm here just in time.
I'm scrambling now, and it pains you to see that, right? He felt like he might have been doing well, and that's just the way of Hearthstone and a lot of these games, is it can turn on a dime. That's kind of the glory of watching some of these games play out. Again, tossing out and keeping those minions clear. Nice little roar to keep himself healthy once again. Nice shield and damage going down. Again, Fluffy was able to keep himself up at full health, but immediately drops right back down to 22. Oh, man.
Almost right back where he started after spending a whole 5 mana. A whole 7 mana to sit there and spend another 5 mana. It's unfortunate, but it's the way of the game sometimes, you know. Unfortunately, that's both of his Amber Watchers, so he has no way to recover any more health at this point unless he sits there and pulls some kind of lever and helping him out. which he does seem to be running a lot of kind of corrupting cards. As well.
Oh, that is pain right there. I think drawing that at a nice time. It's just, this looks like it might be over already. You called it. 2 turns, 3 tops, I think. I mean, do you see a way for FluffyBoy to get out of this?
Only thing I could see is if he throws down the scrapyard, which he would then, he doesn't have enough mana for, looking for a taunt of some kind and just literally throwing those out until he gets a Yashiraj. But the Yashiraj just doesn't have enough kind of things to summon right now because the game hasn't gone on long enough for him to utilize it all that well.
Yeah, definitely one of the benefits of the Druid decks, able to toss it through and he gets another one. I don't think that's going to be amazing unless he wants to throw down. Because again, these are all high cost cards. I mean, unless you got a plus 10 mana sitting in there, he's not too worried about it. Throwing down a 15-15 to round things off. Oh, you're staring down the barrel of a loaded cannon and then some.
Yeah, this is bad. That's what you want to do with Druid. You want to make sure that his board stays as empty as possible. You're praying that he constantly doesn't get those guardian animal draws. And as soon as he does, it almost feels like he's permanently safe at that point, having some kind of big minion on the field, which he doesn't have to stress anymore about.
Yeah. Taking a look, you're praying your best. The sacrificial pawn right there, dropping Anubis down 2-4. I think that is going to be an open board for one final strike. Dropping that Carnival Clown to have a full board just for show and tell.
That's why you gotta do that to the man. Beat him when he's down. Come on.
That's the equivalent of just dancing on your opponent, saying that you could have. I feel that was like, hey, I could have done that for 2 turns and I just decided not to.
Yeah.
That's just mean.
Which he did actually have to wait for the Scrapyard Colossus for that because he had to corrupt it. He had to corrupt it in order to fill the board. So, I mean, he was like, if I'm going to spend this 10 mana this turn, I'm at least get my value out of it in the corrupt next turn.
Yeah. But that will put Naycrusade up, I believe, 2-0 thus far, losing both his Rogue and Druid decks. He has left with, I believe he has a Hunter deck. Am I going crazy here?
A Demon Hunter deck, and then
Demon Hunter. That is the one. I messed up. But I think we are.
It's just of demons. Yeah, it's a Demon Hunter.
I told people they would laugh at me throughout this broadcast. I think this is one of those moments. I think I'm just crazy.
Yeah, Demon Hunter has a much, it's not very obvious, but a much darker green with a much more neon green. Lots of shades of green going on, so I don't blame you.
That's when someone's asking, am I colorblind? I'm just like, I honestly don't know at this point. But yes, help me Naycrusade with the Shaman dropping out here and FluffyBoy on that Demon Hunter. Hoping to output a little bit more pain than before. And already a quick actioned early start to this. Trying to get a handle on this. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think Demon Hunter, if he has the right resources for this could be an easy matchup for him. I think this could be the chance for FluffyBoy to come back because Totem Shaman, which is what Naycrusade's running, he's in a really weird situation where he has to. He's in a really weird situation in terms of what he's going to be able to put down the board. There's a lot of specifics to Totem Shaman. There's a lot of specific draws you need in order to keep any kind of pressure on the board. And with that, Demon Hunter is just very consistent at kind of aggro. You do have those usual incantations that have like a big hunter, Demon Hunter, but those aren't very often as, just regular old Demon Hunter is such an insane kit. The hero still feels so good and so solid with the 1 mana hero power that you can't sit there and neglect it.
So many buffing cards coming out as well. I'm excited to see some of those soul fragment uses. How will FluffyBoy utilize those in an attempt to control this game? But already, a couple evil totems being dropped. having some fun with those and keeping that Surging Tempest ready and waiting.
Yeah, really good initial draws from him. You know, it's a shame he had to use, you know, one of those consume magics for the for the evil totem, because, you know, if he does get that draw, that's a really strong initial draw for Naycrusade here, because that's a lot of resource generation in a kind of deck that doesn't have any other kind of source of resources. It's, you know, it's a very kind of reliant on what you have, you know, and then you have lackeys to deal with as well, but they don't have that much synergy with the cards that you have already preordained.
That is going to be a nice 4 set of totems prepped and waiting. You see it on Naycrusade's side. He does have the Splitting Axe ready and waiting in case he needs to fill the board once again. Nice low end draws with the Totemic Might as well. So this is going to be a little bit difficult for FluffyBoy to start cutting through with the cards in his hand.
Which at this point, he needs to be looking at trying to shuffle those shards into his deck. Because, you know, with such a big hand, surely somewhere he has to have a Shard Shatter Mystic, which I don't know if you know, but the battle cry for it, if you have a Soul Fragment in your deck, it deals 3 damage to all minions on the board. So if he can go ahead and get that down before anything else gets buffed anymore, sadly one thing does, but overall, if he can go ahead and get that on the board, he can go ahead and do a wipe and not allow that axe to have any kind of value to it.
Got to start working on it though, but so far only been attacking and allowing the stack up. If this is a bait, this is a very good bait, and you know, messing with your opponent kind of thing.
Yeah,
he's looking though. I don't know if in desperation or not, but again, continuously pumping up, and that's I think one of the fun parts of the Demon Hunter. You know, it's one of the few that can really start busting up a lot of damage straight from your own hero there. Or champion, I'm not sure.
Do you see a Spirit Jailer? So if he does have a Shard Shatter Binding chance, this could help his case out a lot in terms of getting that board clear. But surely he shouldn't have it at this point if he, you know, decided to go with, you know, just maybe 2 minion clears rather than a whole board.
Whatever he decides, and that's always also the fun part about it. You know, the game is not always dictated exactly by the numbers, right? There's no way to predict exactly what the player will decide and what they want to focus on, right? Each person prioritizes just a little bit of difference, and that makes all the difference, right? That's what makes some mirror matches so different, and you gotta love to see it, how they deal with certain situations. A couple Cobalt lackeys being tossed around as a Bladed Lady not looking too pretty on that board. I think that's actually already taken out. 1 turn is all you get, and that is pain right there.
Allowing a lot of lackeys to go down here as well. You know, they may just be 1/1s, but the thing is, they're 1/1s with value. They all, for the most part, generate something, buff something, damage something, and overall just change the course of the game. And that evil totem just continuously generating them is really going to kick Fluffy in the butt if he doesn't try to take care of this soon.
Yeah, and at this point, what is he hoping on, right? What is he waiting for right there? That's what he wanted. A nice stack and a sweep. Everyone off the board, reset it, run it back, fully healthy, and I'll take 2 damage spare.
Which, that's exactly what that man was looking for. That's what he was praying for. From the position in his hand, it looked like he already had it. So maybe he was waiting it out, seeing to see if there's a little more flood going to the board, turning out the most expensive units to make sure, you know, the ones that didn't hit that 3 mark, he could go ahead and get rid of them. Hopefully he can replace it with a little more 3 health units to like trade out once he got around to it. And he did get a full board clear rather than, you know, a half or maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So, you know, good on Fluffy for, you know, that decision making in terms of when to put that on the field. But, you know, as we see with Fluffy's hand right now, he just doesn't have any resources compared to Nay, who's looking at almost a full hand at this point. So it seems as if he could just flood the board plenty more times and allowing Fluffy to sit there and pray for, you know, that many more shard shatters. But unfortunately, he only gets 2 of them.
You wipe them all, and Naycrusade just said, nah, bring it back, run it back. Another 7 up and at him, and Yeah, that kind of hurts to see. So I want to ask you, because this seems to be a recurring theme, right? FluffyBoy having to allocate just an immense amount of resources trying to clip this off. Do you consider this, part of that RNG that a lot of people like to cry about, or a lot of people like to have issues with, versus just raw, very calculated play coming out of Naycrusade's side?
I must say it's more, rather than RNG, for to be unfortunate for one party, I usually look at it as the glass is half full. It's just a little more beneficial for the enemy at that point. That's how I think of it. As we see, he gets things like Eyesore, which is huge for him. Those early draws of splitting totems with the evil totem. All kinds of factors like that right there in the early stages, especially with Demon Hunter, which he does get a lot of value.
Job's done.
At some point, it can only go so far. And, there's not as much resource generation that Demon Hunter has. He does have a few, but they're just in a lot more weird places, and they're a lot more scattered out.
And the worst part, I think, is you have no board clearing abilities. This is looking like 2 more turns, and looking through here, there isn't much healing that can be done either. Demon Hunter sitting on just Fluffy, hoping that he can salvage something right now and keep himself alive for the next 2 turns. It's going to be a nice draw into the Skull of Gold, and I think that's considered one of the premier cards in there that you do want to hang on to for that Demon Hunter deck for sure. So,
unfortunately for him at this point, he did get it. He's going to have to wait a turn to sit there and spend a card, hopefully cheap enough in order for him to still cast that to get the outcast, benefit to it. If he doesn't, I'm sure he's still just thankful to have some cards at this point. But he's got to find something insane in order for him to actually clear, his Eyesore, which is going to be a huge issue. And then to clear this big old 6/9, he's got looking at.
Actually deciding to have to take out that taunted card. Choice, but unfortunately it might only delay the inevitable. Sweeping out a few more of those minions. Tokens down, as that is going to end his turn. Shutting down at least 2, but still rough goings here.
Yep, this man praying the Skull of Gul'dan changes the game for him, but with it being such an expensive card, there's not too much it can do for you at this point, unless you had that outcast benefit to it and triggering that keyword. And with now 2 Eyesores on the field, it's not looking very good for Fluffy right now.
And there it is, the double eye just popping up some health and gets a 1 cost, so that's not bad to hang on to.
Poor Warlock.
He's gonna pull 3. That is not gonna help him at all.
And all 3 too expensive for him to use without that outcast.
Oh man. Oh dear, is this?
This is looking like a concede here, so
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing he can do. He can trade into one of those 2/4s, but in the large scheme of things, it really doesn't help him out that much.
Yeah. And that is the unfortunate part, right? I think Naycrusade played it very, very well. Made sure to allocate. And I mean, I think you could also tell the decision making on Naycrusade's side, right? Those turns came very quickly, and I think that also plays into the mentality of the opponent, right? When you're being faced with just a rush of turns, with a rush of just combat, it's rough, right? You have such a lower time to try and decide on stuff. Your turns are cut extremely short. So Naycrusade playing this very well and not allowing FluffyBoy to really get a handle on what's occurring on the board.
Yeah, and at this point, you do have to realize the back and forth in terms of how many resources these guys have got and how much they can allocate them. At this point, we do see Nade. Earlier, he had a full hand, but now to get to the stage where he is right now, he's only sitting at 4 cards. But overall, it doesn't matter too much in the large scheme. It's specified going into the season. Naycrusade has taken all 3 right off the bat with a clean sweep to open us up here.
Brutal throwdown right there, and that will be Naycrusader taking it up showing off that he knows how to run his decks as best as possible. Again, that might change later on, of course, deciding on who your opponent, who you're playing against, right, and hoping that you get the right decks is always a fun thing.
Mhm.
However, that's going to be it. I mean, Naycrusader pops it up, and looking on FluffyBoy's side, I mean, what do you think needs to change? I mean, is there a whole lot of strategy they can pull out in those scenarios, or is it just good luck, try again next time?
I personally, from looking at our standpoint, it doesn't seem to be too much. We get to see both sides of the field, like unlike these guys. They're only
Hmm.
looking at one side. They only get to see what's in their hand. But in order for these guys, looking at Fluffy, if he sits there and runs into somebody, he needs more resource generation. Not too many cards breed life to more. It was
Hmm.
very what was on your deck and what was in your deck was what you were dealing with. And past that, he didn't have too much else to work with. And even if he didn't get his warlock banned, I mean, it's still for Fluffy. It was a zoo warlock. I mean, it's still very just. I mean, you do have resource generation with things like your expire merchant, but that's all you really have. Besides that, it's just a lot of draw, a lot of praying that you get the right curve, and sadly, almost none of those three get around to feeling that curve.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it does fall 0-3, but he will have a chance next week to take on and see if he can change things up and if he is able to bring it back in this league. Now, once again, that will be it here, though, for the first game. We will be off air shortly while we wait and prepare for the next match. Once again, I do believe, if I can double check, I had said it earlier, and now I'm just kind of mad that I forgot who we said we will be seeing. I believe we'll have that here shortly. Yes, it will be Bog Nasty versus Killer JV at 7 p.m. EST. Mick, I think you will be sticking around for that, if I'm not mistaken.
I will be indeed. Y'all will see me all night, actually. So, you'll get to see me for all three matches today.
I think that's probably the coolest thing because, again, your analytics are freaking spot on. But we do want to talk about, before we do close out for intermission, I do want to talk about some of our fantastic sponsors, one of them being HyperX. They are one of our sponsors here. So the HyperX mission has been to develop gaming products for all types of gamers with high-speed memory, solid-state drives, headsets, keyboards, mice, charging accessories for console players, USB flash drives, and mouse pads to the gaming community and beyond. The name has been around for quite some time, so the HyperX here is the choice of celebrity ambassadors, pro gamers, tech enthusiasts, and overclockers worldwide because it meets the most stringent product specifications and is built with best-in-class components. If you're interested in checking out their products, make sure to visit their website and check out all they have to offer. With that, we will be going to a short break, but don't go anywhere. We will be back at 7 p.m. EST with even more Hearthstone.